Good Monday morning, everyone, and welcome to NYSE TV Live. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio above the trading floor. Well, we've got a packed show as we start the week together. Consumer products company 3M is going to celebrate the opening bell, and we have several guests in store to speak to its innovation and science. Well, stocks are coming off a winning week for the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It marked their sixth straight week of gains. That is the longest weekly win streak for both of these major indexes this year. Now, even though October is historically a volatile month for stocks, investor sentiment continues to drive markets higher on the back of declining interest rates or borrowing costs, economic expansion, and earnings growth. So far in October, the S&P is up about 1.8%, ending Friday at yet another record high. Well, as we prepare for the trading day, let's take a look at what's on tap. As we've seen money come into the market, we will take a look at how corporate earnings are faring, with more than 70 of the S&P 500 stocks reporting their results so far. Plus, 3M joins us live to showcase its science and innovation. And in fact, the winner of its Top Young Scientist Award is going to join me here in studio after he rings the opening bell on the NYSE podium. Well, Money 2020 is just a week away, and my colleague Trinity Chavez will give us a look, of course, as a preview before she covers that event live from the ground in Las Vegas next week. Well, after the big banks kicked off earnings season over this past week, investors are gearing up for reports from big-name companies like Coca-Cola and General Motors this week. Shares of both companies are listed here at the stock exchange. And joining me now with a look at how companies are faring is earnings expert and head of research at Wall Street Horizon, Christine Short. Christine, such a pleasure to have you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much for having me.
Love to get your take, especially during earnings season. We're not quite halfway there yet. How is it looking so far?
Yeah, we're not even really into peak earnings season this week, but like you said, we hear from a bunch of big names this week. Peak earnings season technically starts next week, but I actually have to say we're off to on a pretty positive note, and I wasn't saying that last season or the season before. The reason being is that more companies are beating on the top and bottom line. Not even necessarily more, but they're beating by larger margins. And that's something that was missing in the Q2 season, if you recall. A lot of companies were still beating. We always see around 80% of S&P 500 companies beat on the bottom line, but they were only doing so by like a penny or two, which investors didn't love. But you're actually seeing a great reaction to the earnings that have been out thus far because the margins have been a little bit better by how much they're beating. And so a lot of that has to do with the fact that sell-side analysts did ratchet down estimates pretty far heading into the season. That was a great catalyst for beats. But we know, like I said, as compared to last season, companies or investors weren't rewarding companies that beat because they weren't doing so by a large amount.
Interesting. So bigger beats, that definitely is a positive, and we've seen stocks react accordingly. When it comes to the big banks, any other specific takeaways for that sector, Christine, as most of those earnings did roll out last week?
Yeah. 6 big banks reported wonderful results, beating on both the top and bottom line, with the exception of Wells Fargo. Even though they missed revenue estimates, their stock popped about 6%. So investors liked what they heard in that report. I feel like the commentary as well was a little more positive. JP Morgan declaring we have reached the soft landing. That's been a question. It's been a little bit up in the air. So we are there. Things are turning in the right direction. I think some of the largest themes that we saw discussed: the consumer. Everyone's wondering what is the health of the consumer heading into the holiday shopping season. And the banks say, they're still active, they're still resilient. There is still that bifurcation between high income and low income, and there is a consumer out there that's still quite cautious, but they are spending. They are paying back their credit cards yet at a lower pace. So we saw some commentary around that. Mortgage lending didn't come back as much as expected in this lower interest rate environment, but let's give it time, right? Mortgage rates are still quite high, but that was an area that hasn't quite come back. Investment banks just blew results out of the water, so Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs, because we're in a lower interest rate environment, that makes borrowing more enticing, and so they see a deal pipeline kind of filling up here. And then stocks have been on a tear, so equity trading revenues were much higher, and that offset some weakness in fixed income and commodities trading. So overall, the banks painted a really good picture, a great setup for the rest of earnings season.
Okay, very good to know. We'll get the next read on consumer sentiment on Friday.
Yes.
So that'll give us a sense, too, as to how we're faring heading into the holidays.
Right, and retail sales last week showed that the consumer is
Yes.
still out there. They're still spending. The last few sentiment reads have been improving as well.
Very good point there. So by how much are we expecting S&P 500 earnings to grow here in this third quarter?
So right now the estimate is for about 3.5% profit growth on a year-over-year basis. That's actually come down in the last week, and the only reason being, it's not because of those beats that I'm talking about. Those have all increased the expectation, but that's a blended growth rate, and that has to do with analysts pulling down estimates for companies that have yet to report. And so that actually sets us up, I think, for bigger beats coming up. Analysts went in and they ratcheted down on industrials, energy, and healthcare. But again, that's I take that with a grain of salt because we know why they do it, but that's setting us up for more great results coming up and investors to react positively to those.
I want to hear more about the sectors that you anticipate will see the strongest growth this reporting season.
Yeah, so same leaders that we've been talking about for most of this year. It's tech in the lead with double-digit growth on the top and bottom line. That's followed by communication services, and you've got healthcare in there as well. So those are, again, going to be our three leaders. The laggards, on the other hand, we've got energy, industrials, and materials, all expecting a year-over-year decline. So those are our three decliners, year-over-year declines on the bottom line, as well as the top line for energy and industrial. So we hear from a lot of the industrials this week, so let's see if we can turn that around. Again, like I said, analysts are really conservative with those estimates, so perhaps when we get some good results, we'll see those numbers grow.
Interesting. And as someone who has followed the earnings space for many years, the volatility that we see playing out in the energy and commodity space, of course, because of high tensions in the Middle East, what does that usually mean for earnings? What is the lag time in terms of the trickle down for that to actually impact results?
Yeah, well, like I said, energy is still one of the laggards for that very reason. Oil prices have been down. We see the main companies that are driving those estimates down are the big ones: Exxon, Chevron, Valero. So I don't think it's going to be a great earnings season for energy. I think you need a few quarters to kind of work that out. So I would still expect them to be one of the laggards on both the top and the bottom line this season.
Biggest reports that you'll be watching this week that could really set the tone and drive the action?
Yeah, like I said, we're not quite in peak earnings season this week, but we do have some interesting names coming out. Everyone's always watching the Magnificent Seven. You have the first company, Tesla, out Wednesday, and then that follows the week after. We'll get Alphabet and Meta and Apple and Amazon, some of the other big ones. Industrials also. You've got 3M, you've got Honeywell, UPS, I think is going to be an interesting one from a logistics perspective. FedEx came out and said, a few weeks ago that they saw slowing demand. Consumers were trading down to cheaper services because of this cautious consumer environment we're in. What does that mean leading into the holiday season? So we'll hear from UPS later this week as well.
Quickly, Christine, we can pick up this conversation too closer to the bell, but any impact that the election is having on results?
Results, not so far. We will see it mentioned, and we will be listening out for a mention of it within some of those reports. But we are seeing companies that are trying to change their earnings date or have push their earnings date either back or forward to kind of avoid some of those peak days, November 5th, 6th, and 7th. That still is a peak week. That first week in November is always a peak week and the busiest week of earnings for the third quarter. But we've just started to see some companies that either want to avoid that or maybe want to get into that because their results aren't so great, so they're trying to hide it. But everyone knows the focus that week will be on the U.S. presidential election.
Yeah.
There's a bigger chance that those results will get lost.
Yeah. Of course, we also have a Fed decision that week as well, so there will be no shortage of news.
It'll be a busy week, yes.
Yes, for us to cover. Christine Short, head of research at Wall Street Horizon. Christine's going to join me again after the opening bell, leading into the opening bell for more earnings commentary. But stay with us because on the other side of this short break, I'm going to be joined by my colleague Trinity Chavez to take a look at some of this super cool innovation that we're seeing from 3M. We'll be right back.
From automotive to climate tech and electronics, 3M is working to build a better tomorrow through innovative solutions and first-in-class material science. We're going to find out how on this episode of Taking Stock. You're here at CES. I mean, this installation is incredible. Let's talk about some of the most exciting products you're showcasing.
3M, at our heart, we're a material science company, and what we're showing here at CES is how we're actively building for tomorrow with our inventions, with our technology.
You've been working together with 3M for about 4 years now. You've been building this product that you're debuting here at CES. Let's talk about it.
So this is the world's first self-powered hearing protector. This hearing protector has my solar cell here on the top. This will allow you to harvest any light, indoor light, outdoor light, shade, when it's dusty, all kinds of lights,
Wow.
and charge the battery. This means we're saving, together with 3M, millions and millions of batteries over the lifetime of the product.
Now, as a customer of 3M, let's talk about the products that you utilize most.
What we do with Voltaire is that we develop solar panels with application in agriculture.
These right here?
Like the one
Okay.
here. Exactly. In the agricultural sector, light is very important for the crops to grow. If you take away light, you're going to take away some of the yield of the crops. What we do with 3M and the way we partner with 3M is that we develop a solar solution specifically tailored for the needs of the crops. So we use the filter from 3M to separate the light coming from the sun. The part of the light that is necessary for the growth of the crops goes through. What is not used by photosynthesis is taken out and transformed into renewable energy. It's an entirely new opportunity of how to approach energy in the agricultural space.
Wow, so it's really making the world a better place.
Hopefully, yes.
What are you most excited about this year?
Changing the narrative in people's minds about what 3M is as a company.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio above the trading floor. Well, 3M recently awarded its Top Young Scientist Award, and that winner is going to join me a little bit later in the show after he rings the opening bell. Well, before that, I want to take a deeper look into what 3M is all about. Of course, it makes consumer products that all of us interact with in our daily lives, from high technology items to really basic Post-its. But in focusing on science, this company is pushing the needle forward when it comes to technological innovation, trading here on the NYSE under the ticker symbol MMM. I do want to bring in my colleague, Trinity Chavez, with more to give us a glimpse at some of this very cool technology. Trinity, good morning.
Good morning, Kristen. Yeah, that's right. So we are diving into some seriously cool tech from 3M, the WorkTunes Connect Plus Solar Hearing Protector. Imagine a headset that charges itself with light, no outlets needed whatsoever. So to talk more about this and how solar-powered innovation is making waves and what it means for 3M sustainability goals and how it stacks up against the market, I am joined now by Mike Leninga. He's 3M's Global Communications Senior Strategist. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Trinity. Thanks for having me here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, you know, we saw our earlier story, which we covered last year when we were looking at headphones that were more industrial focused, but now this is more consumer facing. Talk to me more about what you brought here today.
Absolutely, yeah. So 3M, we're just an innovation powerhouse. We're always thinking, how can we innovate? How can we get better? So the headset you mentioned was more for that industrial worker. You need to be able to communicate with your colleagues. This is for the consumer market. You're at home, you're mowing your lawn, leaf blowing, snow blowing, things get loud. You need to protect your hearing.
Yeah.
First and foremost, that's what we're after. But here's the kicker. You need a lot of single-use batteries, you know, double A's, got to be switching them out. You no longer need that with this headset. We have a solar cell on top that will continuously charge with outdoor and even indoor light.
Yeah.
It's a real game changer for that market.
So let me see these right here. So you're saying that right now, what we're seeing, I don't know if we can maybe get a close-up shot of this for our viewers who are tuning in at home, but so you're saying that right now, this area right here at the top is what gets all the power from the natural light, but both indoor light as well.
Correct, yeah. This is called Powerfoil, and we partner with a Swedish tech company called Exiger.
Yeah.
Multi-year partnership. We're even thinking ahead about where else can we put this technology. But yeah, you're outside mowing your lawn, power tools in the sun. This will continuously charge. It's a lithium-ion battery inside, holds a 41-hour charge. It does come with a USB-C if you ever really need to plug it in and charge, but you shouldn't need to. Just stick it in your window, stick it in your dash at night, and you'll be good to go the next morning.
And I do want to talk to you about the inspiration, the motivation behind this creation and how this value proposition will help your business strategy moving forward in this new collaboration.
Sure, absolutely. Well, first and foremost, again, we're after to protect hearing.
Yeah.
But going forward, I mean, we all know Single-use batteries, where do they end up? They end up in landfills. That's not good for the environment. Millions and millions every single year, just with headsets like these, could end up there. So not only is this an innovation and a business story, but it's also a sustainability story, which is something that is very, very near and dear to our heart at 3M.
And you know, you are here for some innovation, overall innovation, I want to say, with 3M, with your Young Scientist program.
Yes, we're very excited.
Talk to me about the event. I mean, you've been here all day. You're going to be here all day. Just talk to me about everything that you guys are doing.
Of course, yeah. So the 3M Young Scientist Challenge, it's 17 years that we've been doing this middle school challenge in partnership with Discovery Education, where we name America's top young scientists. And these kids are amazing, Trinity. I mean, they invent things that sometimes are even over my head. That's not saying much, but it's incredible. So this year, Sirish Subash, he invented a handheld device that will detect pesticides on your produce. He got tired of his mom and dad telling him to wash his fruit, so he really wanted to try to prove to see if pesticides were on there. So he invented this handheld device. He won our competition. We're now in New York, going to ring the bell this morning. We're really excited.
I'm so excited. And, you know, I know my colleague Kristen's going to be speaking with him a little bit later on in the show, but I do want to talk to you about how you see the future of AI and technological advancements really shaping the overall business strategy of 3M and what's to come for the rest of 2024 and into 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all looking at AI and how we can implement it internally in our products. I know we've got a team at 3M that is dedicated to that. It's interesting, even our employees are using it just to do their everyday work inside. So you're seeing all these different areas where we can use it and leverage it to work alongside automation, robotics, AI. It's a really exciting time.
And you know, I know that you're already planning CES. We
Yes.
talked last year at CES in Las Vegas, and you have a lot of exciting things that you're going to be showcasing there. Can you give us a little bit of a preview of what's to come?
Yeah, I'll give you a little bit of a taste for what we're doing. So again, at 3M, we like to bring in customers' problems and help solve them. Really complex, complicated issues. So what we're going to be showing at CES with our customers showing up side by side is problems that we helped them solve and uncomplicate those problems. So you'll have 7 or 8 different sort of examples, high profile examples at CES. We're obviously going to do it in a very visual, very fun way for the attendees there. But it should be a great chance to show up side by side with our customers.
Now, briefly, we have about 45 seconds left, and we're going to see, you know, your whole team up there on that bell podium with the young scientists ringing that opening bell. But I do want to talk about how programs like this shapes the future of innovation.
Sure. You know, I think it starts with just inspiration. You know, these kids hear about these former winners, and then they get inspired to create something, come to this program, try to win. Inspiration, education, and then it's all about emboldening them to go on that next career path, whether it's in college. You know, some of these kids end up at MIT, CEOs. So it's really a launching pad for that next generation, and that's what we're all about, because we have thousands of scientists at 3M trying to create what's next in the world.
What's next in the world? Thank you so much, Mike. It's always a pleasure speaking with you.
Thanks for having us.
Now I'm going to throw it back to my colleague, Kristen Scholler. She is in Studio One. So, I mean, Kristen, you saw a preview of these headphones. Do you think that it's going to make your holiday wish list?
I don't know, Trinity. I want to see you try them on. I got to see how they fit
Just
around
because
the
you
head.
asked me so nicely.
Let's
Hold
take
on.
a look. Yes.
How does it look?
I think that you've got it sold for 3M.
You know,
Mike's
it's
gotta
so
give us
funny
the
because when you were
thumbs up.
actually talking, the noise completely canceled out what you were saying. So we
That's
just
what we
got
want.
these tested approved. They do work very well.
I like the lawn mowing example. That was great.
I
Of
know.
course, solar powered. Very cool. Great to see the technology. That's my colleague, Trinity Chavez, of course, in studio with the communications lead at 3M. Well, stay with us because up next, we'll talk more about collaboration in the banking space that could impact you and your money. Of course, as we wind down the banking portion of earnings season. We'll be right back.
So, Carla, it's Climate Week. Tell me, how's it been going? Do you have any key takeaways?
Yes, I've really been enjoying Climate Week. It's such a rare opportunity to get everyone from around the world together to think and talk about climate change. So one big takeaway for me is that there are more technologies than ever to help us better measure greenhouse gases, monitor, as well as reduce emissions. And AI is actually enabling those technologies to do even more and to lead to more productivity. One of my other takeaways is that common policies, and approaches really do help. And so it's been nice to think globally, but also act locally.
Now, Carla, tell me about PG&E's climate goals and what's unique about the role a utility like PG&E can play in addressing climate change.
Well, PG&E is committed to having a net zero carbon energy system across our electricity and gas system by 2040. And in order to do that, we've made some commitments through 2030. So by 2030, we'll have reduced our Scope 1 and 2 emissions by 50%, our Scope 3 emissions by 25%. And we're also focused on helping our customers reduce their greenhouse gas footprint through energy efficiency and electric vehicles. And what's unique about a utility doing this work is that we're going to fuel decarbonization. So it's our role to make sure that the grid is ready for all the EVs, for the electric buildings. And I'm really proud that recently, in a recent decarbonization ranking, PG&E was ranked #1 utility in terms of our decarbonization efforts.
Now, accelerating electric vehicle adoption is a big priority for PG&E. Can you share why and what steps you're taking?
Well, reducing greenhouse gas emissions in the transportation sector is key. 40% of California's emissions come from transportation, and 1 in 7 electric vehicles in the country is in our service area. We also know that the more EVs we have on the road, that increased load helps lower the price of electricity for everyone. So we're focused in a couple of areas, preparing.
A global economy increases the importance and need to make cross-border payments easy. Well, MasterCard and Citibank recently announced their collaboration in this area to simplify, expedite, and improve the overall efficiency of these transactions. The partnership combines the capabilities of MasterCard's Move Money and Citibank's worldwide link payment services to provide Citi clients using MasterCard debit cards safe and near instant payments 24/7. Now, currently, this transfer solution is available to Citi clients in 65 countries with plans for continued expansion. Payments and refunds can be made through this system across a wide variety of businesses, including corporate, e-commerce, financial institutions. And so here to explain more is Alan Marquardt. He is the EVP and Global Head of Transfer Solutions for MasterCard. Thank you so much for joining us, Alan.
Hey, Trinity, great to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to talk to you.
Absolutely. So Citi is the first global bank to enable cross-border payments to MasterCard debit card. So how does this collaboration work, and how does it improve the speed and efficiency of this payment?
Yeah, look, if you think about how cross-border payments have traditionally been made through correspondent banking, wire transfers as we know them, those can be slow to upload, bank details have to be put in, sometimes they break, they can be slow and expensive, and they can only really send to bank accounts in a world where people like to transact in a bunch of different ways. So correspondent banking is great for larger trade payments, but isn't really working for all retail use cases. So you've seen a lot of fintechs and MasterCard Move, our own network, move in to build instant networks where we work with partners around the world to access instant payment systems around the world. So that's faster, that's cheaper. But there's an opportunity that I think has been left on the ground, which is we have a card network. It's probably the biggest ready-made network in the world, and we've all got used to it working in one direction when we pay for things. So you know that your authorization will happen instantly. You'll know you can walk out of the shop or the restaurant or whatever. But what people haven't really realized is that same network with a card on the end of it can be used to push payments the other way. Mm-hmm. And so instead of somebody paying with their card, they can receive into their card. And that network, which is always on an instant, is available to make payments that way. We've been doing it domestically for some time and cross-border on a smaller scale, but we wanted to pick our moment and the right partner to start really opening up this way of paying and the use cases it supports at a much greater scale. And so the partnership of Citi and MasterCard is an obvious one to achieve that.
And Alan, MasterCard promises fast, secure, transparent transfers, right? So how does this solution address some of the long-standing challenges in like high costs and slow processing with payments like these?
Yeah, so the great thing about the card network is it doesn't depend in any way on a payment instruction going down a long chain to get to somebody in a distant place with everybody signing off on a payment along the way, which really slows things down. And it also doesn't depend on a particular bank's operations being open. It doesn't depend on a particular payment system being open at a particular time. So this is near to instant. I mean, we're talking about from seconds to a couple of minutes at the most, near instant receipt for people that need it, and availability at any time that it's needed. And honestly, if you look at the cost of remittance payments globally, still sitting at sort of 6 or something percent, in disbursements slightly different, but some ways of paying can be extremely expensive, and this way of paying will not be anywhere in that ballpark. And then you layer on top of it two things. One is it's done on the MasterCard card network, which is one of the safest places anywhere to transact, with fraud protections and overlays and whatnot. And then the other thing is that there are just some use cases, as we call them, so particular reasons why people want to be paid, that are really well suited to cards. You mentioned some of them earlier around refunds, but there are others.
Well, thank you so much, Alan, for all of those important takeaways. Congratulations again on this partnership, and have a great day.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Now we're just about 5 minutes out from opening up the U.S. equity markets, but now I am going to rejoin, I'm going to rejoin with Kristen right now. She, I believe, is still in Studio One. Kristen?
Trinity, that's exactly right. So we are just moments away from the opening bell, a few minutes, and we want to pick up this earnings conversation that we've been having with the head of research at Wall Street Horizon, Christine Short. She rejoins me in studio this morning. And Christine, of course, as we get closer to the peak of this reporting season for these third quarter results, we were talking earlier about the election. How does that impact earnings reports and how stocks might trade if their results do come out in that first week or so of November around the election?
I think what happens every earnings season, every presidential election season, is earnings do tend to take a bit of a back seat, especially that week. All eyes will be on the results of the U.S. presidential election, so you might not see investors react to earnings. Let's say if they're coming in as good as they are now, you might not see that reflected in stock prices if, for instance, investors aren't pleased with the outcome of the election. And so I think that's always the risk, that earnings become sort of secondary to an election of that size. Obviously, the impacts are great. But like I said earlier, some companies try to get out of the crosshairs there by pushing their date either forward or backwards, and so they're trying to get out of that news cycle and perhaps go a bit further when that will be winding down, and then their earnings results can really shine. But that's really the risk, is there's going to be so much chatter about everything else. Will the results get lost?
One of the things that I like to follow at your firm that you track is the late earnings report index, which can give us an indication really about how companies are feeling, perhaps how confident they might be in their actual results. What is this index indicating right now?
Yes, the Leary. Thanks for asking. Yes, this is where we track outlier earnings dates. So are companies pushing their earnings or delaying them more than we've seen historically, or are they advancing them? The reason this is important is because academic research shows that companies that delay earnings reports tend to report bad news when their report comes out, and vice versa is true. When they pull their earnings forward, then they tend to report good news. It makes sense, right? Like you delay bad news, as long as you can, and if you have good news, you want to run out and share it, right? And so this season we actually noticed, and we link it to the fact that the elections are taking place, and also it's a leap year, we've seen more companies delaying. And so the baseline's 100, the reading. Anything above that is showing companies are a bit uncertain. And the reading this quarter was 278, which is extremely high. But we went back to during other election years, which always coincides with a leap year as well, and noticed the same pattern. So I wouldn't say CEOs are feeling less uncertain. I would just say, again, it's companies moving their date because they don't want to be stuck in that election coverage. Because if you look at the commentary just from the bank CEOs, it's all been pretty uplifting. And so I haven't seen anything that coincides with companies being more anxious. We did see a little bit of that last quarter and the quarter prior because, there was still a bit of uncertainty in the air. But the very high reading in the Leary we're seeing this quarter is probably linked to the election.
Christine, stay with me. We'll have more, of course, after the opening bell, but we are going to take a look at that podium here soon. 3M set to celebrate the opening bell with the young scientists up there. Let's take a listen. All right, that was the opening bell. The young scientist is going to join me here in studio in just a few moments once he makes his way down there from the podium. Incredible what he's created at just 14 years old. We'll be hearing more about that innovation in just about 20 minutes time, but I do want to bring in Christine Short, head of research at Wall Street Horizon, as so much of what's driving the market action here at the stock exchange, certainly in these next few weeks, is earnings. And Christine, we've been talking through the expectations that you've been providing as to what we can expect. I do want to dive deep a bit into what are some of the themes maybe that we're hearing from some of these executives, of course, in 2022 and into 2023. Inflation seemed to be the buzzword. Is there any sort of buzzword emerging now among the C-suite during reports?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of talk about interest rates that obviously impacts a lot of businesses. The banks, of course, benefiting from a lower interest rate environment. So there's certainly brings up the debate about how many more and what can we expect to see. Obviously, inflation is very sticky. In the last reports that we've seen, it's still there. We're still seeing high retail sales. We're still seeing, wage growth. So there are a lot of, despite Jamie Dimon saying we are at the soft landing, there still are some of these sticking points that have folks debating how many more cuts we could see and what that likely means. And like I said, one of the big things is in a lower interest rate environment is we hope to see borrowing increase, specifically mortgage lending. We haven't quite seen that move the needle yet. So we'll be looking for talk about rates for the sectors that it matters for. We'll be looking at comments around consumer health, for all of the sectors that impacts as well, especially as we come into the very heavy holiday shopping season. 25% of retail sales take place during this season that we're kind of in right now, right? It now almost kicks off with that prime October date and continues through the holidays. So we'll be looking for their comments on the consumer as well.
Christine Short, head of research at Wall Street Horizon. Christine, always good to get your take. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, well, stay with us because up next, my colleague Trinity is going to be joined by the Chief Strategy Officer of Money 2020 to preview what is in store ahead of the big event in Las Vegas next week.
I know you have a big event coming up. We'll get to that in a moment. But for those that are listening in who maybe aren't following ETF Express as closely as I am, could you tell us a little bit about yourselves?
Thank you so much. So ETF Express was founded in 2006. So it's been going a really long time. And that was in England. But we are a global title. We've been writing about ETF launches and interviewing managers and issuers and service providers around the world since 2006. We launched awards in Europe in 2010, and we have an unusual method of organizing our awards. We're not pay to play. We have a qualitative and a quantitative screen for our awards. So if you're an issuer, you are get to be nominated by our data partners, Track Insight, and then you go through a voting process from your peers. And if you're a service provider, you can nominate yourselves, but then you equally go through a voting process from peers. So it's not pay to play, and it's not sort of going into a dark room and with a committee and coming up with a random, obviously strong, but ours is voting. We like that. The firms with the most votes win. So we've been doing them in Europe since 2010, and then we launched them in the US in 2019. And then, of course, we had a couple of years where we did them from home, which was, an interesting experience, but not the same. And then we added in Canada in 23, and we're very much hoping to expand into Asia next year. If you win an award, you get to come to our party, which is the awards event. And our one for the US this year will be on the 24th of October. If you don't know about it, I'm sorry, it means you haven't won one. But also, you're sworn to secrecy. So there's this kind of, tricky thing there. Tricky not to.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez from Studio 2, and now I want to talk about Money 2020. Now, this event is the go-to conference for all things fintech. This global event brings together some of the brightest minds in payment and financial services, creating a melting pot of innovation and networking. Whether you're a startup looking to make waves or a seasoned professional seeking the latest trends, Money 2020 has it all. I'll be covering all of that and so much more from Las Vegas, Nevada, the week of October 28th through the 30th. We're going to dive into the future of finance and connect with industry leaders and discover what's next in the world of payments. But joining us now to give us a little bit more of a preview is Scarlett Sieber, who is the Chief Strategy and Growth Officer for Money 2020. Good morning, Scarlett.
Good morning, Trinity. Happy to be here.
I'm so excited to talk to you about this because I can't tell you how excited I am to cover it all on the ground with you and your team, how you guys have been so incredibly helpful. But talk to me about some of the storylines that you're following and some of the trends and innovation that you're most looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're so excited to have you in about a week's time. So one of the things that we're most interested in, you can't go anywhere, walk on the street without hearing AI. Again, we're definitely going to have that at Spades there. We've got some of the most powerful people in AI, from Sarah Fryer, the CFO of OpenAI, to Daniela Amode from Anthropic. So much more than that. And even if you think about someone like NVIDIA, we're doing a dedicated summit on AI and Gen AI and financial services along with NVIDIA and Oracle. So AI, open banking is going to be big. There's going to be a lot that's going to come from that. And then it's really about, as we've seen, Trinity, this moving from fintech somewhat in its infancy to really being now front and center.
Can you drop a few names of keynote speakers that you are specifically looking forward to yourself to hearing?
Yeah, one of them, I just saw her downstairs. So Lynn Martin from the New York Stock Exchange is going to be joining us.
Yes.
So we're very, very excited about that. Rohit Chopra, the director of the CFPB, is going to come and discuss the future of open banking. We've got Frank, who's a long-term Frank Bisignano from Fiserv, who's a long-time NYSE fan. And we've got so many other great speakers. We've got Gonzalo Luchetti, who is the head of retail for Citi. So you've got the big banks, you've got the big tech, you've got fintech, AI, we got it all.
And obviously Money 2020 is known for attracting cutting-edge startups, right? But talk to me about how this event helps foster innovation and support that networking community for everyone who is on the ground.
Absolutely. So one of the things that is unique about Money 2020 is we bring the collective ecosystem of money together. So we have the venture capitalists, we have the regulators, we have the banks, we have the early startups. So if you think of someone like a Stripe, there's a lot of rumors around what's going to happen with Stripe in the future. Patrick Collison was an early speaker almost a decade ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of these companies and these founders start with us, they grow with us. We give them that platform and that access and exposure where there's really nothing like it that has, the global scale and reach that we do.
And having led initiatives at BBVA and other global institutions, what do you think are the most promising regions or markets, rather, when it comes to fintech growth right now?
There's a lot of it. I think even within the domestic U.S., there's still a lot of opportunity for fintech growth. LATAM, as you mentioned, BBVA. So I spent a lot of time down in Latin America.
Which, by the way, they're going to be here this week with ringing the opening bell, celebrating them. So, okay.
There you go. Good, another connection. But yes, LATAM is a huge opportunity for growth. I've always been quite fond of that. We also have a big show in Asia, so it's really interesting to see some, especially in Southeast Asia, to see some of the developments because they kind of skipped the traditional incumbents and they're really going straight to mobile first. So.
Would you say that one of these regions sticks out more than other when it comes to, others I should say, when it comes to harnessing this innovation?
LATAM and Southeast Asia are the two that are exciting to me right now.
And what are some other trends, emerging trends that you see evolving, over the course of the rest of this year into 2025?
Sure. So open banking, again, if we're looking globally, Europe has been kind of leading that, but we're seeing a lot more future on the U.S. side. It's just in its infancy over in Asia, so I think for 25 and beyond, it's going to be a hot topic. Embedded finance, again, one of the things that's so interesting is our platform is we see so many companies who have not historically been associated with financial services, telcos, mobile, identity companies, all coming into financial services, so embedded finance.
I'm sure all of these topics will be at the forefront of the conversations that we're going to be having on the ground for Money 2020. Do you have an estimated number of attendees who will be showing up this year?
10,000
Okay.
plus is a number that we'll stick with.
Great, great. And we're looking forward to continuing this coverage, and I'll see you next week in Vegas.
Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
All right, and when we come back, we're going to take a look at how the venture capital firm Firstmark is shaping the future of tech right here in the Big Apple. So don't go away. So, Meredith, bond ETFs were created to provide easier access to fixed income markets. And over the last few years, they've helped facilitate liquidity in the bond market. So how have ETFs impacted bond pricing and liquidity?
So there's a few key elements of the ETF that I want to highlight that explain how they're additive from a liquidity perspective. So the first point is the create redeem mechanism, which allows for primary transactions. It's the hub of the wheel, and it allows for us to efficiently transfer risk. The second element of this is the price discovery vehicle, and the price discovery vehicle has led to the development of algos. The other thing to think about is that the growth of algo trading, the growth of portfolio trading, the ETFs are the hedge for that. So as we think about credit market structure, all three of these things will grow together. So if we look back over the last 5 years, there's been some pretty prominent shifts within the credit markets. The first is PT, portfolio trading. ETFs and ETF options are the fastest growing segments within credit markets. The other piece that really stands out to me is portfolio trading as a percentage of cash bond markets is now about 8 to 9%. Just 5 years ago in 2020, that number was closer to 2%. If we look at ETFs from the same prism, ETFs are now, from an IG perspective, 15% of cash bond volumes. That number is up from 7% in 2020. And high yield ETFs have also shown similar growth. They're now accounting for roughly 30% of volumes. That number used to be about 20%.
So let's fast forward to today. There's been a lot of innovation in this space. How have innovations such as thematic or actively managed options altered trading strategies, and what do you see as the associated risks and rewards?
That's a great question and very topical. If I put on my ETF hat, I really think about the product evolution in ETFs in chapters. So the first chapter, there was a lot of index beta products that were offered to the market. The second chapter was
Now, New York City is known to be a place where innovation thrives and ideas come to life. And the center of this buzzing tech ecosystem is Firstmark, a venture capital firm known for spotting and nurturing disruptive talent. From Pinterest to DoorDash, they have backed some of the most exciting startups, offering not only just capital, but mentorship and a powerful network. So what sets this VC apart from its competition? Well, we'll find out. Why do you think New York City has such a strong tech ecosystem?
New York City is the most innovative spot in the world right now. There's more startups being formed in New York, there's more capital coming to New York, and you're seeing all of the disruption from the major industries across the world of financial services, media, advertising, commerce, and healthcare happening right now in New York City. It's built over time. We founded this business almost 20 years ago, and slowly tech has emerged here, but now it's gotten to every part of the ecosystem, from financial services to infrastructure software, from healthcare to media, and now it's so permeated throughout the whole business landscape here that it's taken off by itself.
Tapping into the deep vertical expertise that we have, unlocking that talent and bringing them into entrepreneurship to transform those same industries. And because New York does it deeper, better, bigger than any place on the planet, that makes it incredible.
We chose Firstmark because of their amazing expertise in marketplaces, and that has been super helpful for us. We're Pickle, we're a peer-to-peer rental marketplace where women are renting their clothes to and from each other, and the expertise that they provide amongst Rick and Derek specifically that are working with us closely is unmatched, and it's something that we don't have internally.
Firstmark, I think from the first meeting that I had with Amish and with Steph, they kind of had a different approach to investing in companies, especially at the earliest stages, really allowing to leverage their platform function to really come in and help the company.
Events like this are so special because it's really hard to be a founder, and being able to get together with so many others who are either going through the same stage you're going through, or going through a stage you just came through, or one you're about to go to, just provides such a great opportunity to learn and to hear from others what the experience has been like.
You spend time investing in companies and partnering with them deeply, and then seeing everybody in one room, you kind of see the full body of the work we do every day, and then seeing that community come together and spend time with each other, and all the impact that they've been able to have on their companies, their employees, their customers, their communities. You just see what, kind of living in our little office, sometimes it's hard to realize, but I think today we just see the full breadth within the portfolio, and then later tonight within the broader New York ecosystem as a whole.
Welcome back to NYSE TV Live. I'm Trinity Chavez. Now let's shine the light, spotlight rather, on the 3M Young Scientist Program, which is all about sparking a love for STEM in middle schoolers. Recently, 3M and Discovery Education announced the winners of the 2024 3M Young Scientist Challenge, recognizing 26 state merit winners and 4 honorable mentions. And my colleague Kristen Scholler will be speaking to one of the winners and today's bell ringer in studio right after this break.
Is the category creator for healthcare navigation, where we supply healthcare navigation for the largest self-insured employers in the country.
I want to talk about your business strategy. What would you say is your strategic focus over the next 3 to 5 years?
Our focus is really around how do we create the best healthcare experience for members, because healthcare is incredibly complex and hard. It's continuing to be complex. Our role is to take that complexity and simplify it for our members and try to create better experiences, more engagement, and drive better clinical and financial outcomes.
Tell me more about your culture and motivation at the company. What inspires you and how do you remain innovative and ahead of the curve?
Culture is everything. So you can feel it when you come into our shop. You can feel how people are warrioring on behalf of our members to get the best out of their best benefits for the members, try to create that experience that's better, take the scariness out of healthcare for them. So culture is everything. We invest heavily in our warrior culture. That's a big key element. It's probably the piece that doesn't show up on my balance sheet or income statement, but it's the most important part. And then the innovation side of this is how do we take the problems that our clients are seeing in terms of costs and try to drive those cost elements out. So we're constantly working with our clients and thinking on our own, what's the next best thing that can make a difference both from an experience, an engagement, and a financial and clinical outcome.
Can you share some real life examples of some of the work that you're proud of or
Sure.
key milestones that you've achieved?
One of the big key elements is we're seeing in our clients is pharmacy costs have gone up significantly. So you may have seen some things around GLP-1s and specialty meds. I can tell you from a pharmacy trend perspective, that is significantly hitting our clients. And so what we've been able to do is
Happy, healthy, and in big tech. It says be in the PhD MD program.
It says travel, business owner, family, and have fun.
I said thank you to the New York Stock Exchange. My dream is to be a quant trader here one day.
If I want to leave a mark, I should leave it near the mark.
I think you got to leave the mark. Perfect. What would your coffee shop be called?
Good question. I don't know yet.
You got time.
Yeah. I want to graduate.
Working.
You want to work here?
I do.
It says make a difference.
Become a professional tennis player.
Become a clinical psychologist.
Become a food scientist.
It says I will be in an original Broadway cast and a cast member on SNL.
Come back to New York Stock Exchange.
Yay! Welcome back to NYSE TV Live, everyone. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio. Well, earlier in the show, we told you about 3M's top young scientists. As a 9th grader, Sirish Subash won by creating an AI handheld pesticide detector called PestiCanned. Well, we watched the 14-year-old ring the opening bell, and he joins me now in studio. Sirish, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I want to hear more about this invention that you created.
So the device that I created is called PestiScan. And what it is a device that you can use at home to detect pesticide residues on your food. So pesticide residues are one of many contaminants that you can commonly find on produce items. But what makes pesticide residues special is that they often will linger on food even after washing them. So what I developed was a way to detect them so that way everybody at home can avoid consuming pesticide residues.
Okay, and is this the device?
Yes. So
Let's take a look.
Yeah. I have here the actual device that I built, my prototype.
Uh-huh.
So the way it works is you launch a mobile app that connects over Bluetooth to the device.
Uh-huh.
So once you launch the app, 1 second.
And what's amazing, and we'll talk about this more as you get the app ready, it's prepared?
Yeah.
Okay, great, so let's take a look.
So the idea is once the app is paired,
yes,
you would point it at a produce item, and once it's directed at the produce item, you just tap scan.
Uh-huh.
And then a couple seconds later, the results come back up on screen.
Uh-huh.
So that's as simple as it gets for testing these things. I'm still working on it, making further improvements to make it faster and more practical for use at home. But this is the device that I'm working with.
I think it's brilliant. What led you to create this idea? Do you often wash your food at home and we're noticing a lot of pesticides? What's the connection?
Yeah, so this actually grew out of a conversation that I had with my mom. So she was insisting that I wash my food before consuming it, and I wasn't really sure, I was curious about why it matters and how effective it really is. So I did some further research and I saw that pesticide residues are among many chemicals that you can find on produce that will stay on the produce even after washing. So they've been linked to health issues such as cancers and neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. So the idea is if we could detect them, we could make sure that we weren't consuming them. And that's really where this whole project started.
How do you want to evolve this over time? I know you mentioned earlier that you're still working on it.
Yeah, so I have a couple key ways that I'm planning to evolve it. I'm planning mainly on shrinking it down and making it cheaper, more cost effective, so it can actually go out into the world, into people's homes. So for the future, I'm actually looking at a price tag of roughly $20 for a future version, but I'm planning on driving it down from there.
Okay, well, speaking of price point, I know as part of this award, you're taking home a $25,000 cash prize. What are you going to do with that money?
I'm most likely going to use it for college to further my education, so that way I can continue working on projects like these, and in the end, leave a positive mark on this world.
So you are a 9th grader, is that right?
Yeah.
What are your plans for college?
College? My dream college is MIT, so I'd love to get in there. That's really where I'm planning on going. Yeah.
And talk to me more about the mentorship that you received from 3M in developing this particular device.
The mentorship was great. I got to work with my 3M mentor, Aditya. He's a researcher who works with nonwovens, which are kind of material that they work with at 3M. So here, he was really helpful in when I was stuck, helping me go forward with the project. So I had a couple issues over the summer when I was working with the machine learning models that actually take the data that comes from the sensor and turn it into the results that you see on the screen. So with that, he helped me move ahead. When I was stuck, he pointed out ways that I could look into the actual data that was coming back to help me figure out where to go with the data, with the machine learning.
What do you think it is about your device that beat out the competition, other middle school entrants?
So the biggest thing I would really say is I've designed this for everyone at home. That was what I feel like got an edge. But my target is people at home whose health could be improved by this. This is the real goal for this project. Just leave society a better place.
Yes, and talk to me about how you got connected with this and whether or not science is what you really like to study at school.
Well, I really started this project for the actual connections that I made to learn some of this stuff. I have enjoyed science and engineering for quite a bit. So it was really all started out with curiosity when I was much younger. And my parents introduced me to a lot of science videos that really kickstarted me, as well as books. And that's really what launched me into science.
Yeah.
But science is a career path that I'm planning on going with. I love physics. That's something I feel like I want to use for my career.
Uh-huh. I know you mentioned earlier, Sirish, that you're going to continue working on this device and the technology. Eventually want to have it perhaps at a $20 price point for commercial use. What do you think is a timeline for that people, our viewers watching, might be able to take advantage of your brains and know-how with this innovation?
Yeah, so I'm thinking I would have a functional prototype within, like a prototype that's more similar to what would actually be released in the next 5 years, and along that timeline, possibly release it around 5 years from now.
We're early in the school year. What else do you have in store this school year?
So school is really fun. I'm enjoying it. We're taking physics. And as I mentioned earlier, physics is one of my favorite fields of science. So I'm excited for that. I'll be pushing forward with projects like these at my local science fair as well.
What do you like about studying physics at your school in Georgia? That's where you're based, right?
Yeah. So I go to a school that's a little bit outside of Atlanta, about a half hour drive from Atlanta. And what I like about physics is it answers some of the most fundamental questions about our world. Mm-hmm. And that's something that's really satisfied my curiosity. That's part of why I enjoy physics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my final question, Sirish, is now what do the next few days look like for you, of course, as you promote this very cool innovation as America's top young scientist?
So for the next couple of days, I have a couple more interviews going on, as well as I think in a couple of days I'll be getting back to school for more midterms. Yeah.
Congratulations. It's truly incredible, so well spoken for a 14-year-old and clearly brilliant as well. Sirish, thank you so much for joining. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're happy to have you. That was, of course, Sirish Subash. He is the winner of 3M's Top Young Scientist Award, edging out the competition among other middle school students. Very cool what he is able to do. That's going to do it for our coverage today. You were watching 3M's Make Your Mark video earlier, just as Sirish, of course, is pushing the needle forward when it comes to science with this innovation Pestican. We had asked many different leaders and truly aspirational figures to make their mark here with 3M Post-it notes by leaving their goals and aspirations over the next 3 to 5 years here posted at the New York Stock Exchange. And we were showing you that video a little bit earlier. We heard, of course, from a Broadway actress and others who really want to make their mark along the way, whether it's creativity and performance or, of course, creativity when it comes to science. So a lot for us to follow, of course. 3M, ticker symbol triple M here at the New York Stock Exchange. The young scientist is going to be making his way to other outlets, of course, to explain more about this innovation that he wants to make mainstream, $20 price point, and of course, hopefully will make your home a lot safer. It's going to do it for today's show, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow. I'm Kristen Scholler. From me, my colleague Trinae Chavez, and of course, our whole NYSE team. Thank you for watching. We hope we inspired you today. And as we send you out, let's take a live look at the trading floor as we are officially underway and open for trade on this Monday morning.
life, I'm reminded that it's not about the destination. It is truly about the journey.
My pleasure to greet you today from the center of the U.S. capital markets here at the New York Stock Exchange.
I want to just take a minute and not just talk to the people that are in the room, but I want to speak to the rest of the team around the globe. These are people that made this happen, and I know that there is no way we would be here if it wasn't for you.
Everyone at Flutter is proud to join such a distinguished list of companies on this great stock exchange.
Not many people get to do something big in this world, and we get to do something truly special.
This is such a wonderful place to both look back and look forward. Look how far we have come. I'm so optimistic about what lies ahead. It has been a privilege.